Gracias por seguir con nosotros en la Mega XP Online. Espero que estén pasando una experiencia fabulosa. Nosotros nos estamos divirtiendo mucho llevándoles todo este contenido, todas estas actividades hasta su casa. Espero que las estén disfrutando y todavía tenemos varias sorpresas como la plática que tendremos ahorita. Vamos a hablar con una diseñadora. Ella es de Silver Spring, Maryland, y su primer juego salió apenas hace unos años, en el 2019. Pero ese juego causó una gran impresión, ganando varios premios, entre ellos el reconocido Kennerspiel des Jahres. ¿Ok? El juego para expertos, el premio para juegos de expertos de los Spiel des Jahres, y ese es solo uno de muchos premios que ganó ese juego. Obviamente estamos hablando de Wingspan, pero ese no es su único juego. También tiene Tussie-Mussie, y en el 2020 sacó su último juego, que es Mariposas. ¿Sale? Obviamente estamos hablando de Elizabeth Hargrave. Bienvenida, Elizabeth. Vamos a darle una bienvenida. Hello, Elizabeth. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you.
It's great to have you here. We love your games, and we are really excited to talk about them today with you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, just let me tell people that they can answer that they can ask their questions through the chat, and we'll start with the chat. Bueno, pues ya lo vieron, estamos aquí con Elizabeth, y si tienen alguna pregunta, quieren saber algo, déjenla en el chat, déjenos el comentario y trataremos de contestarlas todas para el final de la plática. Ok, empezamos. Well, Elizabeth, great to see you. Thank you for being here with us in the Mega XP Online. It's such an honor.
My pleasure.
Excellent.
Sometime in person.
Hopefully, this will be over soon, and we'll be able to get together again. And maybe next year the Mega XP will go back to be a physical con, and then we'll be really happy to have you here. So let's begin. We know about your games, but we would like to know more about you. Can you tell us, what did you do before designing games? What was your job, or what is your job, and why did you decided to become a board game designer?
So I was working here in the Washington, D.C. area. I came here and I worked for the federal government of the United States for a while on healthcare issues, and especially the federal programs that work for older people in the United States, Medicare. And after a while, I left the government and was working for a consulting firm, but still doing sort of research on healthcare policy.
Okay.
And that whole time I was also a gamer, and at some point I just decided to try making my own game.
Well, we all know how that turned out to be, and you did a great job with that.
Thank you.
And okay, now people know about Wingspan. They really love your game, and we'll get to talk about a bit Wingspan, but I am not sure if you are aware of the impact that your third game, Mariposas, had here in Latin America, but especially in Mexico. People, when the game was announced, people were interested, not well, first because it was your game, and we by that time we already knew about Wingspan, but also because it was about the monarch butterfly, that it's kind of a symbol for people here in Mexico, especially in the state of Michoacan. So why did you choose that topic? Why did you choose that one?
I mean, so in our summer we get the monarch butterflies up here, and they're beautiful and definitely declining. I see fewer now than I used to when I was a child, but I didn't know that they migrated until I went to Mexico it must have been 2002. And I went to Michoacan and went to one of the sanctuaries there and got to see them on the trees. So beautiful. And just it's the story of how they migrate is just such an amazing story. And even though most people in the United States, I think, would recognize a monarch butterfly and know what it is, I think a lot of people don't know the story of how far they migrate. And the fact that no single butterfly makes the round trip also is just amazing to me. And so I knew that for a long time. And then many years later, I read a novel by Barbara Kingsolver called Flight Behavior, that the whole plot focuses on a group of monarchs that has found a new home in North Carolina, I think it is. And because of climate change and the struggles that they're having in Mexico, they just start to spend the winter somewhere else in this novel. But at that point, I was already working on Wingspan when I read the book. And so my game design brain started thinking about it while I was reading the story. And that was sort of how the game started.
Well, that's great, and you did a great job translating that feeling of generations of butterflies going and coming. So that really captures that idea. All your games, all of them have nature themes. They we have birds with wingspan, we have butterflies, with mariposas, and then you have Tussie-Mussie, that it's about flowers. So obviously you love nature. You enjoy designing games for that. Tell us a bit, how is that process? How do you translate that idea of nature to a game concept? How do you do that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I can tell you I have a long list of game ideas, and not all of them are about nature, but
Okay.
The games that I have successfully worked on so far have come to me sort of as this, people often ask, do you do theme first or mechanic first? And for me, it's when I have an idea that is theme and mechanic together, that gives me something to start with. So, you could do a game about butterflies migrating, and obviously that would be, them moving on the map and like that. Or for Wingspan, it was, I want to do a game about birds, and I wanted to use some of the engine building and economics that you have in Euro games that are about humans, but translated into how you would do that in the natural world, so that all of the resources, instead of being wood and ore, are seeds and berries and things like that. So that's the first piece, is just having that spark of the theme plus that very vague but first piece of like, okay, how would this theme work in a board game? And that, I don't know where it comes from. That's just the initial idea. But from there, making a first draft that doesn't work, and then figuring out how to make it work, and just playing it over and over and over. I play first with myself, and then I start playtesting with other people once it's kind of working. But just many, many, many playtests. I'm so grateful to my playtesters.
Well, certainly those games came out fine, and all of you did a great job for them. And as we were talking previously, you have the prizes there to show the good results. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
We ask we ask in our social media for people to ask questions for this talk. They when they knew we were talking to you, and we have a few questions. And I'm gonna jump a bit ahead because this question of one user I think kind of relates to what we're talking about. And they were asking your games. It's not only the game, but you have information in them. Like for example, each Wingspan card has some information about birds and stuff like that. So they were wondering, do you do all the research for that? Or was it added later? Did you always intend it for it to be there? Tell us more about that detail in your game.
I did most of it. Yeah, for the base game of Wingspan, I did all of it. And it was, again, sort of a building process. So my first draft, many drafts of Wingspan did not have the information on the bottom of the card, for example. That's just like the interesting little fact about the birds. But they did have that structure where you get the food of the bird and the nest of the bird. Those are all based on real characteristics, the wingspan. And so those were all things that I just found in different resources. A lot of them from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. They have a great website. And so, yeah, I did that. And then as the powers on the birds developed, and I was trying to do a lot that had something to do with the bird's behavior, I wanted to explain like the way that the cowbird's power in the game works, right, where it's laying eggs on other birds' nests. I wanted to be able to explain to people that was actually like a real thing. And so then I ended up putting those little bits of information on the bottom of every card, the little sentence that's something about the bird. So yeah, that it was a lot of research, and it's all in a giant spreadsheet.
Okay, well, I can tell. Well, one can tell by looking at the game that it was a lot of work and a lot of work out of love, and it's a really beautiful game visually, and it's a fun game to play. So well done there. Okay. Now I would like to talk a little bit about change to do a little change of topic. You have been in the board game spotlight for only a few years since Wingspan came out, and since then you've been very outspoken about inclusion and diversity in the board game industry, which is a very important topic to discuss today in the world and in our industry. How do you feel about that now? What do you think are the things that we're doing well today, and what are the things that need to change, and what are the steps to follow? Because there's hopefully there are some little girls out there. They will watch this, and they will watch you talk and follow you in social media. So what would you tell to those girls that want to follow your footsteps?
That's a big question.
A little bit.
I think a lot of my experience of board gaming groups and of being in the industry is very based in the history of how the industry has evolved, which has been very male dominated, very white. I think that is changing rapidly. as we're seeing other markets like Mexico grow, that's bringing other people in, as we're seeing even within the United States, different demographic groups are getting interested in gaming. More and more women are getting interested. And I think that that will make it feel easier to the next generations of game designers to come in and participate. For me, when I was starting to design, gosh, 5, 6, 7 years ago, if I went to playtesting events, it was common for me to be the only woman there. And even just in 7 years, that has changed, and it's not so common anymore. There are usually other women in the room. So I'm excited to see what's going to change, and I'm excited to see how that will change what games get made. Because I think bringing in more people and more people's ideas can only make the industry stronger. And I think that games like Wingspan are showing publishers that the universe of what you can do with games and what people are interested in, what people will buy, is maybe bigger than they thought. You know, when Jamie Stegmaier from Stonemaier Games was asking people how many copies of Wingspan should I print, it's this game about birds, people were like, oh, I don't know. Right? But people have a lot of different interests. It doesn't all have to be about European history and trains.
Definitely.
So I'm very hopeful and excited. And one of the reasons that I have this hope for the future, but I also do feel like it's important still to talk about it and to be conscious that there is an imbalance in the board game industry is so white and North American and European and male, that, you know, this very small demographic group is doing most of the things. I think it's still important to point that out and to talk about it and to try to think about ways that we can broaden the universe more quickly rather than just letting it happen. And I think if we do talk about it and are conscious about it, we can make it move even faster. And that'll only bring more people in. So
that's the idea. And yeah, we really want to have a hobby that everyone feels welcome and everyone feels part of it. And yeah, that definitely is. And certainly designers like you open those doors, show people that there is space for everyone. Is there anyone that inspired you in the industry or outside? I don't know, that someone that was kind of an icon for you, that you decided to follow that person?
I don't know if there was any one, but I was definitely aware of the women who had come before me, that it had been done and was possible. So like Susan McKinley Ross, who designed Quirkle, Inka Brand in Germany, who's done so many games. Yeah, people like that. And they've both been very kind to me. Susan especially reached out to me when I won the Kennerspiel and was like, or when I was nominated, and said, you have to go to Germany. This is what it's like. You know, here's my advice for you, basically. So yeah, it's been people often say I'm one of the first women game designers to really break into the industry, but that is not true. There have definitely been many women before me, and there are many women sort of in my generation that are coming forward too. So definitely,
we're always coming behind someone that was before us. But yeah, you certainly reach or got to some milestones that hopefully will create a trend in our industry, because yes, as you say, uh, it's a very specific demographic, or it used to be, and now that is changing, and it's evolving, and it's this hobby is getting really popular all over the world, and all over the all for all kinds of people. So it's great that we have voices like yours to talk about things that maybe a lot of people want to talk but don't have the are not in the place to be listened. So it's a great work you're doing, and not only with your games, but you as a person talking about that. So thank you for that. Now let's talk about a bit about let's go back about Wingspan. You mentioned the Kenner Spiel when you won. I yours was the last ceremony, physical ceremony. That's right. It was the last ceremony that people were able to attend. Tell us what happened. What was uh, when you were working on Wingspan? Uh, did you knew that you had such a hit in your hands? Did when did you realize? Because I mean, in our community, you're a celebrity. You know, you're a celebrity. We here we mentioned we are gonna interview Elizabeth Hargrave, and people know who we were talking about. You know, so how was that process for you? How when did it hit? When what happened? Tell us.
So Stonemeyer started talking about Wingspan in December of 2018 and releasing a few pictures, but it was this very like little teasers, right, for a month. But people were making a lot of noise just from the teasers, and that was my first taste of, oh, this, like, something might be happening here. Okay. And then it was released in January to order online from Stonemeyer, and it sold out so fast. And so that was really like, okay, this is a thing. This is happening. And then that whole year, all of 2019, it was just catching up. Like, we could never keep it in stock. There was so much demand, and I thankfully don't have to do any of that or worry about any of that. The people at the publisher worry about making it. But yeah, it was wild. It was so far beyond anything I could have imagined. I remember actually that fall in 2018, before it came out, hearing an interview with Jamie from Stonemeyer Games where he said that his minimum print run was 10,000 games. And that was larger than I had in my head. Like, I thought, like, for a lot of first-time game designers, to have 5,000 copies of your games is very nice. Like, you're doing well. So for him to say we're starting at 10,000 and then to instantly sell out and just keep going, like, that was wild. And then it was in the newspaper and some magazines, and that really kept things going. And yeah, it was a wild ride, man. All of 2019 was just like a roller coaster. It was wild.
One can only imagine what was it for you, but because it was crazy. And I can tell you, in as a customer, as a gamer, it was everywhere, that game, and everyone wanted. So it was amazing, because as you mentioned, it was your first game,
Right.
So it it was really a remarkable thing that happened. Um, a lot of people, as I told you, we asked people to tell us what they wanted to know, and we have a lot of people want to be game designers. They want to bring their games to the world, to bring their ideas. So, can you tell us a bit more about your design process? How long does it take? From when you have an idea to when the physical game was released. Um you already told us a bit that theme and gameplay, mechanic. You try to pair them since the beginning. But how is your process? Tell us.
In terms of time, it really varies by game. So Tussie-Mussie took me a month.
Okay.
Wingspan was years. It started out much simpler, and I think that that's something that I would recommend to most designers who are starting, is to start with something simpler, fewer cards, not so many moving pieces, and just put yourself out there. A lot of what I had to learn was really the psychological sort of confidence building to go out in public with an unfinished game and get people to play it. Because playtesting is the only way that you will make your game better. And playtesting with your friends can get you started, but it's not enough, because your friends will not give you the criticism that you need to make your game good. You need to play with a lot of different kinds of people, just many people, many times. If you can find other designers to play with, my experience has been that is super valuable, because they're already thinking about what makes a game work. And when they play, they can diagnose problems more directly. I find that when I just play with my friends or people who are sort of casual gamers, it can help me see what's going wrong, but they can't necessarily articulate what's not working. They can usually tell me if they're frustrated or confused, but maybe not why they're frustrated or confused. So playing with other designers increases your chances of being able to figure out what's wrong and what needs fixing. And there almost always is something wrong or many things wrong. You just have to go through many versions. And so another piece of advice that I give to people a lot is, and something that I always have to remind myself, is not to spend too much time on your physical game, the prototype, because it will change over and over. And so make something quickly and get it to the table. My first draft of Wingspan was just handwritten pencil on cards. Just get it on the table and see what works. And over time, as you change it, you will spend more time on the physical thing. But yeah, fail faster. Do you say that in Spanish? Fail faster. like do it quickly and find out what's wrong quickly. Don't spend a lot of time trying to make the thing before you find out whether it's broken.
Okay, I understand what it means. I'm not sure if we have an expression for that specific. If someone knows, let us know in chat. But yeah, I definitely understand. Was Wingspan your first design, or did you have other games before?
No, it was my first design, but the first version of Wingspan was very different. So it was, it's almost not even the same game. But that is that true? I don't know. There are a lot of things from the first draft of Wingspan that are still in there. But it got more complex and more polished over time, just from you play test and then you find what didn't work and you fix some things and you try it again and do that over and over and over.
Oh, and was it about birds since the beginning?
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, they're telling us in the chat that it would be falle rápido, fail quickly. So it would be a little translation probably. Okay. Someone is quoting, Lorena is quoting a song from a Spanish artist for that. Okay. Now, how? Okay. Do you? Well, someone in the chat, and it relates to this. Miguel is asking if you can tell us a bit about the differences between the first version of Wingspan and the version that we end up having. If you can tell us, if
yeah,
maybe you're using
so there were cards.
Okay, we
for
know
the birds and for the food, and the way that the birds needing the food to be played, and they had nests and you laid eggs, but they didn't have powers yet. In my first draft, there was no player mat. So a lot of the engine building were things that got layered on as I was developing the game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it turned out great. Now, how do you know that a game is done? Like, how do you know that if I'm designing a game, how would I know that it's ready to go to the printer?
So I think there's two separate parts to being done. The first part is if you're not publishing it yourself, knowing if it's ready to pitch to a publisher.
Okay.
And then the second is once you're working with a publisher, or if you're publishing yourself, when is it done and ready to go to the printer? So for sending to the publisher, when I was ready to pitch, was really about, like, when I was play testing, I was not getting a lot of things to fix anymore. The changes I was making were very, very small from playtest to playtest. People were starting to ask me, when are you publishing this?
Okay.
And things like that. I was like, okay, I think this is ready to go to the publisher to pitch. But then once it got signed with Stonemaier, we worked on it for another year. And the same is true with Mariposas. It got signed. Actually, that one was for a contest. So there was a deadline. And so that was when it was done, was when the deadline happened. But then we did development on it. I sent it to them with a letter saying, this is what I have so far. I think you can see where I'm going, but clearly it needs some more work. Let's keep working on it. And they agreed. But how is it done? I mean, I think a lot of it's the same thing of, like, when do you, like, feeling like the changes that you're making are not significantly good. But I do think it's important, if there are little things that are annoying you every time you play, and you have in the back of your mind, oh, maybe we can get away with this, no one will notice it. People will notice it. Like, you need to fix those things. If it's just like, oh, we could try it this way, we could try it that way, neither one seems particularly better, that's not important. But if there are things that are bothering you, they will bother other people, and you need to fix them. But as part of it's just like, what publishers have schedules, right? And they won't, if you want it to be available for Christmas, you need to go to the printer on a certain date, and you just have to stop. So part of it's like really being done and fit and polished, and part of it is schedules, and you just at some point have to decide whether you're going to change the schedule because what you're still working on is important, or can you just stop and be good enough.
Okay, and well, that's interesting, because yeah, it might be hard sometimes to know when to stop.
Yeah.
You know? And do you work on multiple ideas at the same time, or do you focus on one game and until you're done with that one, start the next one?
A little bit of both. I I really like to have one project that's my main project. Right now, for example, that is the next Wingspan expansion, and I've been really like working on that every day. But I do have another game that's signed with a publisher that a developer is working on right now. And so I do, you know, put Wingspan down for a little bit and talk to them every week or two about that and play some games. So I'm working on it, but not as focused. And in the other direction, I'm talking to someone about a game that we want to design together. And we're just starting to sort of brainstorm, but I haven't like really focused and made a draft yet. And so for that focused work, I need it to be just one project. But I do have other little things that are starting or finishing or going on. Yeah.
Well, like you mentioned that the idea of Mariposas came before while you were working on Wingspan.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. Now, you mentioned you are a gamer. You like playing games, and you were a gamer before you were a designer. What kind of games do you like to play? What are your favorite kind? And is there a game that you find so great that you say, "Whoa, I would love to be the designer of this. I would love to came up with this idea."
I mean, there's lots of games probably that, yeah. What kind, but games that I like to play, I tend to like, I do like a good engine builder. I tend to like lower conflict games. Some of the games that I've played the most often are like Terraforming Mars, Castles of Burgundy, Race for the Galaxy. What else? I don't know. I mean, I'll play almost anything, but that's sort of my sweet spot.
Okay. Okay. Well, we have some questions in the chat here, so I would like to go to them if that's okay with you. Okay, so Carlos asks if what's the process of balancing a game? How do you balance it, and the maths of a game with the fun factor? How do you balance a game that it's fun for everyone and it's really balanced for all the players?
Mm-hmm. A lot of it's just playtesting and watching and keeping track of whether you think the people who were playing the best are the people who end up winning. Does that make sense? And I mean, so Mariposas, it was really very much the playtesting, and the publisher had developers who were able to spend a lot of time playing with a lot of different people, and I didn't have to do all of it in terms of like working out like how many points should you get for getting your butterflies back to Michoacan versus for picking up the different things around the board and things like that. That was really like some math and theory, but a lot of like, okay, does the theory actually work when people play it, and does it feel like there are multiple paths to victory and that you could focus on one thing or another, and it all works, and there isn't one obvious path that you feel like you should take because obviously that's the way that you win. In Wingspan, there's a lot of math under the hood for like, if an egg is worth 1 point and you spend a turn getting so many eggs, then like everything else sort of builds off of that in terms of what's a card worth, what's food worth, and what are powers worth, and therefore what's the value of this bird that you're playing, that sort of thing. So that's a lot of math. And I had to just make a formula in Excel, or I would have lost my mind trying to do the calculation by hand or make something up by hand for every bird. Like I just had to. And then I tweaked the formula based on how things felt in playtesting. Oh, maybe this is worth more than I thought it was or less than I thought it was. But I do sort of try and set up a structure to keep things consistent.
Great. That's really interesting, and it's a great advice, or people that want to make a game. Now you know the kind of work you have in front of you. Now,
not every game needs a lot of math, but Wingspan does.
Wingspan, okay. Now, Danny asked about. You already mentioned that you're working on a Wingspan expansion, but are there any other? You mentioned that you have another project, maybe that you're involved. Can you tell us more about them, or you can't talk about them right now?
Sure. I know Stonemeyer doesn't like they don't want me to say anything.
Okay.
They're little teasers, right? But I am working on the next expansion for that. And they're also working on a big box already that will hold all of the expansions, so you can like go on the Stonemeyer website and see that. Yeah, and so I have a game signed with Pandasaurus, and they also are not talking about that yet.
Okay.
It'll be with Pandasaurus, and then yeah, I'm starting to. I'll tell people the theme of the one that I'm just starting to think about is mushrooms. So
okay.
I'm a big mushroomer. I was just out mushroom hunting this morning.
Okay. That's the one, but that's not the one with Pandasaurus.
No, that's not the one with Pandasaurus.
Okay. Well, we're happy with what we get, and we know you're working on a mushrooms a mushrooms game, or you have that idea. Now, as we talk, like, well, all of your released games have nature themes, and then the ones that we know that are coming are nature.
Yeah.
Have nature themes. Is there another topic that you would like to explore in the future? Are there any other ideas that you had for other topics?
So this is very random, but when the pandemic started, I was working on a dexterity game about stunt people.
Okay.
I'm not even like a huge fan of action movies, but I read this great obituary of a woman who was a stunt person and like held all sorts of speed records for different vehicles, and it just got me thinking, like, why is there not a game where you flick meeples off of buildings and like
that's a great.
More with more people, I want to bring that back, but that was one that like it just didn't make sense to work on during the pandemic. So We'll see. So I'm not like 100% nature all the time, but those are the themes that just occur naturally to me because it's the stuff that I care about. And stunt people is just like, oh, that's fun,
Okay. Well, that one with the stunt people, it sounds really fun, and
right?
Actually a great idea for a dexterity game. Hopefully you'll get to explore that when things are back to normal and you can play with people, but
right.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, we'll see.
No, that's great. That's great. Is there anything else? We're getting close to the time to finish, which is a shame because this has been so much fun. But is there anything else that you would like to tell us? Anything else you would like to say? As I told you, you have a lot of fans here, not only in Mexico but in Latin America. This because it's online. It's aimed for the whole Spanish-speaking American citizens. So Is there anything else you would like to tell them?
Nothing off the top of my head. Thanks for sitting through this in English. Sorry, I'm not quite confident enough in my Spanish to do the interview in Spanish, but
No, it's our pleasure, and well, as I told you, the Mega XP, it's actually a physical convention, and then we would be really happy to have you here in Mexico for the next one, or if you can do that one, the one after that. But we would love to have you here, and then you would have a lot of time to practice your Spanish.
Yeah, right. That's what I need.
Yeah, I know for sure that there's a lot of people here that would like to see you, to talk to you. They would like for you to sign their games and stuff like that. Oh, before we go, one last question that someone asked, and I was kind of forgetting, because also there's a relationship between Wingspan and Latin America, and that's the art. Okay.
Yes, right.
Because for those of you that don't know, the artists for Wingspan are from Colombia, right?
Yes.
And so, can you tell us a bit about that story? How did that came to be? How did that happen?
Yeah, so Natalia actually lives now in St. Louis, Missouri, where Stonemaier Games is based. But she grew up in Colombia. And her kids go to school with one of the co-owners of Stonemaier Game, the kids of the co-owner of Stonemaier Games. So they were just talking as parents on the playground while their kids were playing, and he learned that she was an artist and asked a little bit more about it, and learned that she likes to do nature art and was working on birds. And he realized he should get some samples from her because they had this game coming out that they needed art for. So, and then Anna, the other artist who worked on all of the bird art, is a friend of Natalia's from high school, and they grew up doing art together. And so Natalia brought her in to help because it was such a big job. Yeah, the artist for Mariposas is from Mexico too.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, then you have a connection here. You have a connection with Latin America. So there it is. You need to come here again, and you need to be in the Mega XP and be with us here in person when it's possible. Okay. Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this. This has been really fun. I know people enjoy your work, and I'm sure they will. They now know more about you, and they will be able to play your games with maybe another perspective now that they know certain things about the process behind them. So again, thank you for being here, and hopefully we'll see you again sometime soon.
Thanks. Have a great con.
We will. Well, now let me just say goodbye to our viewers in Spanish. Bueno, pues ahí lo tienen. Una plática muy interesante con Elizabeth Hargrave. En verdad, conocer un poco más acerca del proceso de sus juegos, de un juego tan exitoso como es Wingspan, un juego como Mariposas, que específicamente en México tenemos muy cerca del corazón por Michoacán y todo, en fin. es muy, muy interesante. Espero que se hayan divertido tanto como yo platicando con Elizabeth y que nos sigan acompañando durante el resto de la Mega XP. Todavía tenemos varias actividades este sábado. Ahorita en unos minutos va a empezar la siguiente plática que va a ser acerca de juegos con niños. Está muy, muy interesante. También ahorita mismo se está llevando a cabo ya está por terminar la final de la E-Liga de Beer. Entonces también para que conozcamos quién va a ser el campeón mundial de la E-Liga de Beer. Y pues sigan a Mega XP en sus redes sociales para que estén enterados de todas las demás actividades. Visiten el sitio. Tenemos varias sorpresas todavía este día y mañana tenemos muchas sorpresas más para ustedes. En verdad, muchísimas, muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos y nos estamos viendo muy pronto. Elizabeth, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.